This is the May meetup. So January, February, March, April, May, yeah, 5. So thank you all for coming on a nice day. First, I want to say thank you to Invika and all the people in Invika for hosting this, the food, the drink, everything. So big hand. My old stomping grounds. I also wanted to say, if you want to tweet about the event or send anything, it's hashtag Magento London. So that's for that. I want to have a call for talks. So we're looking for new talks for the next few months. For June, I think we have an open speaking slot. Oh, great. I'm going to get crosstalk of myself here. This is interesting. Let's just close that down. All right. So, yeah. So we've got an open slot for the June event and also for the rest of the ones coming up later in the year. So if you are interested in giving a talk, an experience report, it can be technical, it can be non-technical, let us know. Email us, the organizers at the Meetup group. Just go to meetup.com and email the organizers and say, I'm interested in giving a talk. It's a real great experience. It's lots of fun. And we've got the space for it, so cool. Next, I wanted to also give a shout out for Mage Stack Day, which is a day, it's going to be the weekend right before Magento Live UK. It will be June 18th and 19th. The idea there is to go on Stack Exchange and try and close as many open Magento questions there are. They've gotten it up when they first started it. I think this is the 5th or 6th one. When they first started it, it was like at 40% or 50%. They got it up to 70%. I think they've got it now up to around 80% closure, which is awesome. So it's a really, really good thing. Even if your technical knowledge is low, that's cool. You'll learn something and partner up. It's virtual. It's worldwide. So you just log on and you just start cranking away. If you guys want to get together and stuff like that, and some of you go for it, do it. A lot of people get individual into groups. They come in on the weekends, and it's just on the Saturday and the Sunday beforehand to try and close as many Magento questions on Stack Exchange. So it's really good for the community. So that's it's called Mage Stack Day, and of course I'll send out a link to that. And lastly, there was, and I don't know where it either got eaten, but because it was where the pizzas were, there is a sign-up sheet. And if you put your email address, oh, there it is. So we're going to pass that around. If you sign up and put your email on that, I'll be picking 2 names out for PHP Storm licenses or any license from JetBrains, basically. It's a 1-year license. It's not a company license. It's a personal license. But they're giving 2 free ones away. I will draw from the emails on that list. And if anyone is on the live stream, just email, just put a shout out on hashtag Magento London and say, count me in for the raffle, and I can pick you out as well. I'll put you on the list, and I do that. And that's it. So that's my introductory announcements. Today we've got 2 speakers. One of them is virtual from California, from Magento itself, themselves. It's Tanya Soroka. She is the product manager for the Magento Marketplace. In the last couple of meetups we've had lots of questions. I fielded the questions. She doesn't have that much time afterwards, which is why we're trying to start on time here. So she's going to pick from the questions that have come in and trying to answer as many of them as possible. So thank you for everyone who wrote in with their questions. And then after that, we've got Marco Lopez from Invika, who's going to give a talk about, I forgot what it's called. Data-driven design? No, not data. Yeah, it's data-driven design. Yeah. I saw a preview of it. It looks awesome. So right when I came in, so looking forward to that. But first, now I'm going to hand over to Tanya. Now, you may want to move in a bit because Tanya is going to be speaking virtually through that little speaker there. I've turned it up as loud as it'll go. So you may want to move in. I'm not sure how far that's going to carry. That's basically it. Tanya?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
Take
good.
it away.
So, hello, everyone. As Mitch mentioned, and thank you for introducing me, and thank you for inviting me to be presenter on the Meetup London and tell you about Marketplace. So my name is Tanya Soroka, and I am a product manager for Marketplace, and today I would like to provide you a brief overview of Magento Marketplace. First, I would like to start with myself. I'm originally from Ukraine, so I really apologize for my accent. But for the last 6.5 years, I'm living in California, and I'm working with Magento for 6.5 years already. So As you may know, Magento has officially launched Animation this year, and we have over 200 Magento 2 extension on the store, and more is coming. We have a lot of developers which applied, but we are being really selected with the extension that we accept. In our priority, it is review every extension and each provider to make sure that we offer the highest quality of products and services, as well as created the user experience for all the merchants. Initially, the marketplace is featuring only Magento 2 extension, but right now we're working on adding Magento 1 extension to the marketplace. And Connect will be remain open until we have migrated all in one extension over that meet our criteria. So you can visit marketplace at magento.com and check our store. If you are not able to find certain extension, please tell us no. Feel free to email us at marketplacerequest@magento.com and grab one of our marketplace team member and tell us what are you looking for, and we can help you with this and see how we can help to make your experience with marketplace successful one. What is a marketplace? Magento Marketplace is official Magento store for Magento extension and themes. It helps developers to sell their products and merchants and system integrators to find functionality which is necessary to build e-commerce website on Magento platform. Marketplace is featuring products from developers and partners in the Magento community. This contribution range from the large companies and to the smallest companies business. We want to create a home for paid and free open source application as well as connector, which allows for data exchange between Magento platform and third-party SaaS companies. Magento as a team wants to have Marketplace to be an official and most trusted destination for merchants and, of course, system integrators to come and find the necessary functionality, all the customizations which needs to the store without concerns about the quality and security. Marketplace team is managing the quality and inventory of the store and featuring the marketplace at community events. We will be investing more time and resources to direct the user traffic to the marketplace by adding monitoring emails, email channels, trade shows and conference, exploring product and integration, and etc. So we set 3 core goals which we want to achieve with Marketplace. First, we want to make Marketplace store as a destination where system integrators and merchants will comfortable purchasing third-party build products that extend the Magento platform. We want deliver incremental revenue for developers, and the way to do this, we think, is to make sure buyers trust Marketplace store experience. We believe that trust will come from having a consistent and storefront process and quality inventory available for purchase. And these actually bring us to the second goal of Marketplace. We are improving overall quality of inventory Marketplace. We're doing some functionality, performance, and security tests. We're getting rid of plagiarism, plain and simple. We think buyer will recognize and very much appreciate the high standards we set to be listed in the marketplace. And the final goal for Marketplace is to show the amazing work of produced by ecosystem of Magento developers. Our Magento Marketplace inventory is organized, created, selected, high-quality set of products and services which can provide a unique functionality for the users and will help merchants' business to grow. The created inventory select makes the search and browse process easy and intuitive, cutting down on the time of necessary to find the right product to complete the e-commerce store. So I really want to emphasize that Magento is investing heavily in the marketplace on ongoing basis. First, we have invested in creating and developing a brand new UI experience and checkout flow. Second, we have made significant investment in establishing a team dedicated to Marketplace with both business and operational team to conduct quality checks and create its inventory. And the next point is near and dear to your heart and ours as well. We have been building out our marketing and demand gen team who will promoting Marketplace listings. As a result of Magento investment, we're creating a top quality app store. All submissions are checked for potential plagiarism in code of and content against existing inventory and Magento code. We're also looking at the functionality, performance, and security check to make sure that apps actually do whatever they promise, and you play nicely with other installs apps. Extension providers listing will be effectively merchandised to the extension purchasers, and purchasers will find the app they are looking for much more easily thanks to created inventory selection. So how we can achieve this and what we're doing, especially for the extension quality program. So the major goal of new Magento Marketplace is the quality of inventory. And Marketplace introduced two levels of the extension quality. So all submissions to the Marketplace go through the level 1 quality review, which includes business, technical, and marketing review. Let's see what does it mean. Business review checks the company history, the evidence of its legitimate business, history of the previous involvement with Magento. If extension contains rich functionality, deliver value for the merchant and system integrators, solve business and operational problem, and bring unique functionality that extend the Magento platform. The next step is a technical review check. The technical review checks that the submitted package meets the composer requirements, does not contain plagiarized code, it's free of malware, and meets Magento coding standards. I would like to highlight that the results of Magento coding standards check are grouped according to the two severity levels, warnings and errors. If the package is found the errors, it will not pass the marketplace quality review. If package is found to contain warnings, it will pass marketplace quality review, although we strongly advise extension developer to correct these issues. For those who actually familiar with Magento ECG sniffs, warnings are equivalent to severity level 6 and 8 issues, and while errors are equivalent to the severity level 10. Level 1 also include marketing review, which checks the list of the features and functionalities, the extension content, the style principle, the guides and documentation, and also Magento branding usage. We also have level 2 quality, level 2 of extension quality program. It is the extension verification process, and this level is required to all Magento partners, and it will be available for other developers on invite basis. So what actually includes Magento level 2 level 2 of extension quality program? It's actually documentation, review of release notes, and specification of technical details. We look on the functionality tests performed using Magento test framework or any other automated means. There is a deep code dive, including peer and manual review on all levels of the Magento code standards. And finally, submission must pass a security review that checks against vulnerability, such as cross-site scripting, SQL injections, etc. The extension verification program is considered the gold standard in marketplace quality. And the submission who pass level 2 of this program will receive a badge of their accomplishment, top quality. And it will be released really soon. You will be able to check this. So if we will look, in order to pass on our verification program, please see these following tips which we have right now on the slide. Visit and review our user guide where we describe the full flow of submission process. In this guide, you can find information and description on full process steps, including business, technical, marketing review, all the requirements which needs to be done to pass the steps. Please review also Magento 2 standards and developer best practice to make sure that your extension code bringing correctly with all our practice. We have published the package validation tool, which you can use before submitting to the marketplace to make sure that your package structure is correct and will be passing during uploading package to the marketplace on the submission flow. We also recommend to make sure that to make sure and test extension on our newest, latest Magento 2 version. As an example, Magento 2 has recently launched the 2.1 release candidate version. Please test your extension if you have it. Then it's about Magento 1 for Magento 2 extension. For Magento 1 extension, as I mentioned, that we required to have a package for submission to the marketplace. So please use Magento 2 for creating a package for the Magento 1 extension. We will accept the TGZ file format, and we will do validation of structure of the created package. And as I mentioned before, that each submission goes through the level 1, we also do the same checks for Magento 1 extensions. So you can look on the ECG tools of the code sniffs to verify the extension quality. And I would like also to mention that our team is working on the publishing this rule set of the code sniffs for the code validation on our level 1 verification extension code. It will be available for Magento 1 and Magento 2 extension. So these rules will be available to use and run before submitting extension to Marketplace. And now I would like to switch to some different flow, which from the different user point of view. The developer portal, what you actually seeing in the screen, is a destination for developer to provide information about their business, the company information, the company history, goals, and social media. This information will be available on the store for the user and can affect their final decision, the choice. On the developer portal, we also collect PayPal account data for the developers to make sure that we will have ability to pay out to developers. And as I mentioned, during submission, we go through the all-level quality review. Then developer will be notified about each of the steps of the submission process, approving or rejection, or if there are any additional list of correction or recommendation needs to be provided to this product, it also will be communicated to developers. And as far as I know, we have some of the merchant in our meeting as well. So I would like to give you a quick overview from the merchant point of view. What is the flow? So on the marketplace store, we are doing, and we're promoting our partners and developers featured extension as well as owners of the extensions. We have also introduced a set of the success stories about our partners developers. Please go and check. By using browsing, we are homepage, category page, and search. A user will have has ability to buy any extension via our checkout process. We're accepting PayPal and credit cards as a payment options, and all the purchases available for the user under their account. So after the merchant get or any user on the marketplace will get an extension. The question will be, so what is the installation process and what is the next step? So we're addressing that large merchant and system integration will use the command line interface to install an extension, but there is actually a user interface via Magento admin that enables merchants to install an extension. Let me, by looking on these slides, you can see how it works. So first, user will need to authorize their Magento instance with rep@magento.com by using keys available from the user account on Marketplace. This is one-time actions. First time when user will do this, there is no need to do this a second time, at least if you want to do a synchronization with another case. Next, with the web setup user component manager, the user will see all the purchased extension available for installation and go through the installation process. A readiness check and backup process is performed, and then code is moved to the Magento to complete the installation. We believe that interface promises the safe, simple, and reliable means of installing third-party built extension. So this is a little bit about the overview of Marketplace, the flows, and I know that there are a lot of developers which would like possible build extensions on the Marketplace, and I hope this slide will help us to understand what is the categories and what is the gap we're having in the Marketplace. So if you talk with any of us before, if not, we would like to mention that Magento is going to play a much more active role with Marketplace. We want to have a good working relationship with ecosystem and our developers. As part of that, we want to keep you updated with opportunities we see in Marketplace. So all the gap or untapped areas that we are seeing through those far are in the categories like you're seeing here in the slide, payment methods and tax integrations, point of services, multi-channel and affiliates, customer service, and live chats, product information, B2B extension, and of course, themes. Really need themes. For B2B extensions, please know that it's specific design criteria around the functionality we need. Please contact us for further information for this specific type of extension development. Let's review some of the general policy of Magento Marketplace. We had some questions coming over the past few weeks, months, that we would like to clarify. All sales in Magento Marketplace are subject to a 70-30 revenue share split, with 70% of the revenue going to the developer and 30% to Magento. In this 30%, we pay credit card fees and Braintree processing fee. If developers sells an extension outside of Marketplace, that purchase will not be subject to the revenue share. The way we like to think about this is if a customer buys something through the Marketplace or enters into a free trial and then upsells at a later date into a paid product, purchases related to that initial transaction will be a subject to the revenue share, including upsell related to that extension. If that same merchant decide to buy a completely different extension at a later date from your own website, not just updated version of the original extension bought, then this purchase will not be a subject to the revenue share. This business model supports our marketing effort to promote Magento Marketplace and increase the demand for the products that our providers bring to market. It also enables Magento to create content and maintain the necessary review and verification process to ensure a high-quality experience to merchants and healthy ecosystem for providers. Marketplace inventory includes for purchase and extensions that are open source and free to install and use. Customer will either pay for code and use Component Manager to install the app, as I mentioned in previous slides, or they will obtain a connector extension that allows user to do a data exchange between Magento and third-party software as a service. To use this service, the customer will need to sign up for an account with a third-party provider. Credit cards and PayPal payments are acceptable for all payments. So we are accepting credit cards and PayPal for the payments, and all payments will be in US dollar at the Magento Marketplace launch. Payouts will be sent for PayPal via PayPal and will be in US dollar at in the current moment. Later, we planning to introduce a service that will allow payouts to be in developer local currency. If we will talk about refunds, a buyer will have 25 days after purchase the request of refund to do a request for refund. And a member of Magento business operational team will manually review all the refunds requests and approve it if they will understand that it's an appropriate refund. So right now, I would like to tell you about our roadmap, oncoming features, and future roadmap. So first, I want to quick touch on upcoming feature for the marketplace for Q2. We are integrating with third-party search engine to improve our keyword search, including natural language processing, search promotions, and etc. We also include support of Magento 1 free and paid extension on Marketplace. We are updating partner labels to reflect the recent changes to the Magento Partner Program, which has been announced at Magento. We're also improving the extension quality program. We are planning to make process improvements to reduce the time spent in the review approval process. Furthermore, we plan to make more to provide more information available publicly about marketplace coding standards needs, as well as tools which will allow developers to self-test their extension before submitting them to our technical scan. And we are implementing the list of developers notification when new review has been submitted, or question or answer has been submitted to their extension, or notification about the order creation, or refund request approving. We also will continue to improve the developer dashboard and to provide more visual displaying of the information and improving the developer submission flow, addressing feedback we have received from the extension providers. So what is our future roadmap? And I would like to mention that it's aspirational roadmap. It's not like a promise, but we are going to support services purchased via the marketplace and upgrade purchase product. We also will introduce a customer support system for routing inquiries about marketplace listing to ensure that we will have fast and effective issue resolution by Magento team or extension providers. We would like to enable the staging environment where a customer can try before they buy, experimenting, playing with the products before purchasing. We will enable payouts for developer for marketplace sales in the developer native currency, so they don't have to pay exchange rate fees. We would like to provide ability to share the company account with the other company's members. Also, we will work on the improving merchant experience by introducing the simple flow of selecting getting extension via Magento 2 application. We are going to provide ability to create self-promotion on the extensions. We will support ability to bundle extension and packages. We would like to have a support of recurrent payments of Magento Marketplace listing products. And we would like to support ability to select extension which can be recommended or shared or purchased by buyers. As you can see, we are continuing improving our marketplace store, and we have plans to do more and more. So please contact us if you have any feedback to this feature list which you have seen on the slide, or you see that something is missing on the slide. So I would like to share our recommendation to how to be success on Marketplace. Be sure to see what is currently available on Marketplace and evaluate the gaps. Checking on the shared ideas for Magento 2 extension. This forum is available on Magento forum. There's a list of gaps in extension and themes which we have identified by Magento and our community. Be relevant and differentiate yourself from others. Create an extension that solves a common problems currently faced by Magento merchants. Know your audience. Remember that your target audience is a merchant, whether they are technical or not. Be sure to explain any technical technology and use examples and data to tell your story to whoever is reading your description. Provide just enough detail to get your key benefits across your customers. Pricing. It is difficult to find the right balance between what it costs to produce and maintain an extension and how much merchant will willing to pay for it. Evaluate the competitive landscape and customer demand in order to come up with the right and appropriate price model. Magento Marketplace provides a creative user experience with discovery capabilities that includes dynamic content models, editorial content, community reviews, and more. Establish yourself a strong partner by working closely with the Marketplace team to highlight your work. Provide your own documentation to ensure that the merchant are appropriately educated on your extensions. Along with growing offering of the products and services, the global Magento community actively contribute to Magento Forum and fuels new e-commerce innovation. Continue to evaluate demand and connect directly with the merchant to find out that solution they anticipate needs. And please evaluate your code before submitting to the submission and use our helpful links which I provided before. So just to summarize, we realize there's a lot of details that we involved. So we have created many resources to help guide your thoughts with the processes. So please take a moment, look on these resources. You can take a screenshot. We have a number of helpful links and resources to help and answer any questions you may have. If you didn't get a question, please contact us at marketplace@magento.com, and we will try to help you. Just to summarize, I would like to thank you to listening to us. We are really excited to launch Marketplace in the Magento this year, and thank you for being part of the Magento community. And with your help, we will make the Magento Marketplace be definitive trust store for Marketplace extension And we're looking forward to working with you to create a thrilling business together. Thanks. So, I know that you have sent several questions to Mitch to get the answer. I hope some of the slides already answered to you, but in any case, I will repeat that. So the question number one, which we received, is how do we encrypt extension to prevent privacy and copyright issues? Extension which required IP access, such as shipper HQ, are fine, as code really doesn't matter. But in the past, I have had terrible issue with people just copying and reusing my code or even reselling it. So as you can see right now, we're actually stopping people reselling your code with plagiarism scan and dedicate a team to monitor inventory in the marketplace store. We are working on the version of options of the implementation. We're trying to understand the issue, and we're open to suggestions. So if you can share with us what exactly, how you resolve this issue, how you handle this issue, please contact us, and we will work with you to understand all the requirements. The question number two was, in the new marketplace, is there going to be a way for developer to know who is downloading their extension so they can reach out to them with security updates, new features, and feedback requests? In the current Magento Connect, you have no idea who is downloading your plugin unless you take payment. So yes, definitely, we would like to provide this information to you guys, to developers. And we were thinking to provide this information on the developer dashboard, as well as integration with Google Analytics data to provide you more vision on marketplace traffic on your extension. And also, as I mentioned, in Q2, we do notification about order confirmation and who has purchased it. So all this information will be shared with you. Okay, will all Magento 1 extension get moved to Marketplace, or will Connect linger on? So as I mentioned, yes, we're going to migrate Magento 1 extension, which will pass all our requirements, such like it should be unique functionality, it should resolve problems for users, the code quality must pass our level 1 technical review, doesn't have any duplication, and based on the company information, etc., all this extension will be migrated to Magento to Marketplace, as well as their reviews. And we're going to close Connect when we will migrate all the necessary information. And of course, all the developers will be notified about the timeline and deadline for that. So next question was, any plans of automatic extension installation Magento 2? Yeah, we understand the pain points, and as I mentioned in one of the slides, we have command line interface where you can install the extension. We have web setup teasers. But if you remember on our roadmap, we're actually thinking about in-app experience that provide ability to find and install Magento 2 extension via Magento 2 application directly with easy installation flow. The next questions which we received, the search bar of Marketplace is rubbish. Any plans to improve it? Yeah, I think you saw in my slides again that we are integrating right now with third-party search system in order to improve our search. So we working on the improving browsing experience based on user feedback. So please contact us if you see anything else which needs to be updated or improved. And I think that it's last question which I have in my list. Is there any way I can find details on acceptance requirements for a model to be accepted into the new marketplace? So yes, as I mentioned, this presentation, we have published a tool for the, first of all, we have guidance where you can go and read about all the steps which we're looking for. And we also publish a tool for validation, the package structure that it meets composer requirements. And we're going to publish the rule set of codesmiths, which can be run and validated before submitting to Marketplace. So please visit this and visit these links and see if this is helpful information. And again, if you need any additional information or you see the gap of our documentation, please contact us. Marketplace team is open to any feedback. That's it for me. This is all questions which I have.
All right. Thank you very much, Tanya.
Thank you for listening.
All right, give me just one moment and I'm going to be able to switch this around for our next presenter.
Is it working? Okay. Okay, so hi, I'm Marco. I'm a technical team lead at Session Digital, which is part of the Inviki group. I've been working with the company for a few years now. I've worked on the first Magento 2 project in the UK. I've been focused on good practices and processes, and that's what I like to do. And I'm going to talk about something called modeling by example. Can you hear me well at the back? Yep, okay. So let me describe this scenario and see if it's familiar to you. So you're a development company and the client comes to you and they have this idea they want to implement. They come, they describe their idea, you agree on what needs to be done and start working on it. A few months later, when you go and deliver what was agreed, then suddenly everything changes and you get this thing where suddenly you're being asked, well, this is not what I was expecting. Like, it looked like we were talking about the same thing, but apparently we weren't because this is not what I wanted. Or, well, we actually used to need this, but just a couple of months ago, our business changed and now we don't need this anymore, so can you redo this? And then suddenly it's total panic because you need to redo everything and then things will not be easy to do and you get to this point like, oh, we cannot do this, or it will take months to rebuild this, and all of this code we've been writing is going to have to go to the bin. So why does this happen? Well, one of the reasons is communication failure. So everyone thinks they're on the same page, but they're actually not. So you're speaking to each other, you think you're understanding each other, but you're actually interpreting the same thing in different ways. The other reason is business changes. So for example, if you were developing an extension a year ago or something, you were developing it for Magento 1, and now suddenly Magento 2 comes and I have this Magento 2 website and I go and I ask you about your extension, and well, it doesn't work with it because business changed. I wasn't using Magento 2 a year ago and now I am. So how can we try to mitigate this problem? Well, first, we can try shortening feedback cycles. So instead of just developing the whole thing and then finding out that things are wrong, you deliver every couple of weeks, you deliver something, and then you immediately find out if there's something that you need to fix, if you're going in the right direction or if you need to fix it. You can have daily updates and find out even before you do something, when you start speaking and say, well, I'm going to do this today. And someone asks you, well, why are you doing this? We don't really need that. And so you find out that, well, actually, I thought I needed to do this, but I don't. So you didn't even do it yet, and you are already saving time. So if you notice, I'm talking about Agile. This was just two of the Scrum ceremonies that I described here. So this would help us with communication issues because they would be picked up early and would help us with some of the business changes. So if it's a business change, a short-term business change, you will be able to adapt really quickly. If it's something that you're still writing or you wrote a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even a month, you could still easily change it without losing a lot. But can we do more? Because there's still, let's say, something that changes a year from now. This won't help us at all deal with this kind of thing. So we still have this problem. It's still there and it will still happen. So how can we deal with this? Well, we can shorten feedback cycle even more, so that we can try to have better code quality, so that our code can adapt and easily change. When business comes with a change, we can quickly change because our code is really simple. So to achieve this, we have this thing called BDD. And what is BDD? So BDD is basically just, it's a design exercise. It's a way to drive your code based on features that you get from business, so that there's a good communication between business and the developers. So you write these examples of how you want your application to work, and then you write some code that will, the code you would like to have to solve this problem. So this shortens feedback cycle because you immediately get feedback. You have these features that tell you what you want, so you immediately get feedback if these features are passing. If you have a green on your features, you have feedback that you're doing the right thing, and you have the specifications of how your classes should communicate with each other, and this tells you, like, at a really low level that you're also going in the right direction. So on PHP we usually do this with Behat and PHP spec. And modeling by example is basically just a way of doing BDD. It's a kind of way that helps you drive your domain and uncover your domain, so that you know exactly what you need to do and you focus on the problem rather than some arbitrary solution. And it also helps you unify the language that business speaks with the language that your code is going to speak. So everyone throughout the whole development pipeline are speaking the same language. You don't have developers talking code and business talking something else. So this tries to mitigate this gap between business and development. So now going to get into a bit technical. So there's in Behat, which is the main tool for BDD on PHP, we have this thing called suites. What this means is that you will have a scenario that describes a scenario for a feature, something that you want to achieve. And in this specific suite, in the domain suite, you won't have any, like traditionally in Behat, you would go through the browser and through the web server and get like the whole application tested. In this case, you will have a suite that will load your code directly, and then you just write code to make your examples pass rather than having like the whole UI in front of you. So is everyone familiar with the gherkin? Has anyone used gherkin before? Okay, a few people did. So gherkin is basically just a kind of grammar that allows you to describe features in a certain way. The goal of gherkin is to reduce the communication gap between business and developers, so that you can have this kind of thing that will be parsed by Behat in case of PHP and other languages, other frameworks. It will parse this, and so you can write something in a language that everyone will understand, but then developers can write something that will make this, like some code that will make this kind of line by line each test pass. The way it does this is you have this given which describes what you need to have to make these behaviors happen. You have a when that describes what triggers the behavior, and you have a then, which is what happens, like what. So the behavior is basically what is triggered by the when and what happens then. And this is a typical, what you would find in a typical gherkin scenario. And in this case, let's say I was developing an extension for a payment gateway called Awesome Pay, and I have this scenario. And I want to use this to drive my domain. So if I look at this, I see that it focuses a lot on implementation details, and we need to get rid of implementation details so that we can have our domain isolated from all of those details. So the first thing we see is, for example, that we need to press a button to place an order. And this doesn't really make sense for us because we could, for example, be implementing an API or a library. We could be doing this through the browser or through mobile. And so we get rid of this because it's an implementation detail. It doesn't belong here. We also have filling the form with the credit card number and expiry date and all of these things, which are also UI related. It's again implementation detail. So we also get rid of this, and just for brevity's sake, I'm removing the CCV and the date, because in this case it's not relevant because I'm just focusing on paying and not actually validating the card. So when we do this, we now look at this and we see that this when doesn't really describe what needs to happen for us to achieve this payment. So this payment will not happen when I have a credit card. I need to do something else. So by removing these implementation details, we found out that actually our scenario was not describing the behavior we wanted, was just describing some UI that could be used to achieve this, but it's not what business is trying to achieve. So we find out that actually this when is just some fixture, it's just something that we need to have in place, and we need to have some proper when. So let's move this into and our when is when I pay, and now we have an action. When I pay, then my payment should be accepted. Now, if we look at the scenario again, we have this given Awesome Pay as credit card payments enabled. This is still an implementation detail. Awesome Pay, it's specific payment gateway. So we remove it and replace it with the payment gateway. And this might look like we're going a bit too far because we are specifically writing this as an extension for this payment gateway. So why are we removing it and replacing it with something generic that doesn't seem to help us at all? Well, actually this is an important step, and what this does is it helps us kind of see that this Awesome Pay thing is an external entity. It's outside of the boundaries of our domain, and it's just an implementation of a payment gateway. And when I say an implementation of payment gateway, this is kind of already a hint that Awesome Pay will be an implementation of payment gateway, which is an interface. So by playing with the language, we are already uncovering parts of our domain and driving our architecture, and we're getting like an interface, and we have this implementation that will be the Awesome Pay thing. So we identify these boundaries, and our domain is now more isolated. So we get something like this. We have our domain, we have interfaces around our domain, it's completely bounded by interfaces, and then we have all of the external entities, like Magento will communicate with it via interfaces, the payment gateway will communicate with it via interfaces, and anything else that you need to have communicating with this will have interfaces. So in this case, if something changes in Awesome Pay, you don't need to touch your code, or if something changes in Magento, you just need to change the implementations of these interfaces, and your domain is completely isolated, and you don't need to touch it unless business changes. So back to our scenario, we see that now we have a Magento step there, and the Magento order status should be processing. But we saw on the previous diagram that Magento is also outside of our boundaries. So we also want to get rid of this and not have this step here. We might still want to test this because it is important for us to know that the order is in the right state when the payment happens, but just not here. We can have a different suite where we have integration tests that go through end to end, and then they test that Magento is actually in the right state. But here we're just worried about driving our domain in a way that it kind of mirrors the natural language rather than something that looks like code, some alien code for someone that's not a coder. So let's see how we would then implement these steps in Behat. So a bit of an explanation here, because a lot of people seem to not have used Gherkin. But on Gherkin you have that description, and then the developers come and they will implement for each step on that natural language description, they will implement some code. So what we can see here is that the code mirrors very closely the description that we used in natural language. So we can now start writing. We still don't have the code. This is the code we wish we have. And then we write this test will fail, and then we just generate this code to make it pass. So you see that this payment gateway has credit card payments enabled to be true. This is just given the payment gateway as credit card payments enabled. So it's really close to natural language. This step is here, but it could be in the constructor, and then this would just be really close to each other. This is here just so that we can see that we are using a fake payment gateway, which is just an implementation of that payment gateway interface I mentioned earlier, where Awesome Pay would be the real implementation, and this is just a fake one we're using for tests, because this is not an end-to-end test. So let's see the next step, which is given I have a credit card. So basically that's what we do. We have a credit card, we store the credit card. You may have noticed that we are passing an integer in our step, but we're getting an object here. What this means is that we have this transformation thing. It's a Behat feature that allows you to move these implementation details out of your scenario so that they don't clutter your scenario, and your scenario still can be very close to the natural language. And in here, whatever comes there will be replaced by whatever is returned by this transformation, and will be directly injected into the step implementation. You may also have noticed that this credit card is actually a value object. And what this means is we are uncovering some elements of our domain. We found out that in our domain we have this concept of a credit card, and so we represent it somehow. When I say a business domain, we speak about credit cards, so in our code we speak about credit cards as well. So we use the same language. We have an object that represents it. It's the value object. It's immutable, so it doesn't have sound effects. Side effects. If you need a new credit card, you just bin this object. You create a new one. It never changes. It has a type, so you always know that you have this object is a credit card. It's validated, and if you have it here, it's because it's a valid credit card. While if you were dealing with primitives, you couldn't be sure of that, and you would have to keep validating it. And by doing this, you immediately get this validation, and you can even type into it and make sure that you're receiving the right thing everywhere. It can encapsulate its own logic, so it will be black boxed, and it's really explicit. So if you have a number and the name and some date, it might be a credit card, it might be something else, but this is really explicit. It tells you it's a credit card, and there's no doubt about what it is. You might also have noticed that there's this static call. This is a named constructor. And again, the reason why this is good is because it lets you use natural language when creating your object. Instead of having this anonymous constructor that forces you into looking into your object to see how to construct it, you have these named constructors that let you have code that you can speak about, like credit card from number, and then you know from the name what you need to do with it. And you can have multiple constructors like this for the same object, and you can construct it in different ways. And you just have a private, the anonymous constructor can just be private, and then you have this, and your class is completely backboxed. So back to our step implementation, the next step is given the credit card as unlimited funds on payment gateway. And this is implemented, this payment gateway card as unlimited credit, this credit card. This looks very awkward and it doesn't read like natural language at all. This just sounds like some normal code that we might see everywhere. So what we need to do in this case is look at what's there and play around with the language and try to make it work for us. So let's see. So let's reword it so that it will be the payment gateway as unlimited credit for that card. And now we go back to our implementation and we have this payment gateway as unlimited credit for this credit card. So the language is driving the way our code is written. And now it again looks like natural language and it reads very well. So by doing this kind of thing, you end up with having code that is closer to business language, so developers and business can communicate more easily. And it leads developers to modeling the domain of the problem rather than an arbitrary solution, some technical solution that they come up with at the moment. This is actually driven by the business domains, from what the business people, from what the stakeholders want. And this means that your code changes when your domain, your business domain changes. So when business comes to you and tell you like, this needs to be like that, your code, that's when your code changes. It's the only time when it changes. And it should be really easy for it to change because the language in your code is more or less the same as the business. So if business now is talking in a different way, your code just needs to talk that way as well. The design emerges from the examples, these examples you write, and these examples emerge from the conversations with stakeholders. So there's communication and the gap is reduced by these conversations and this ubiquitous language. It also kind of from this technique emerges patterns. So when you start using these, interfaces will emerge, value objects, name constructors, builders, all kind of things start emerging from this, and a lot of good practices will just come from doing it this way. It helps you getting decoupled. Your domain models will be decoupled from your views or from your low-level classes that are taking care of I/O and stuff like that. So your domain is isolated, and in that sense, but not just that, it's also isolated in the sense that it's isolated from the framework itself. So looking at this diagram again, if we have this extension for Magento, and if we want to suddenly replace it with Magento 2, what we need to do is we re-implement these interfaces and we do whatever boilerplate Magento 2 needs to recognize the payment gateway. But our code, our core code will not change, just these interfaces and whatever boilerplate Magento needs. Let's say we want to now use it in a Symfony application. It's exactly the same thing. You just need to re-implement these interfaces and do whatever your Symfony application needs to recognize the application gateway, the payment gateway. So this helps you mitigating communication problems because there's this ubiquitous language that the whole stack of the whole pipeline speaks from stakeholders to the code itself, not just the developers, but actually the code that the developers are writing. And it drives developers to a better understanding of business because they have to ask questions, they have to speak to business and speak the same language so that they can understand what business is trying to achieve in a way that they can write those scenarios and then write the code that mirrors the business language. It's easier for developers because your code is written in a natural language that is easier to understand, anyone can read it, and it talks about the problem that you're trying to solve, not an arbitrary technical solution. So as long as you know what you're trying to solve, which you should when you sit at your computer, you should already know what you're trying to solve, you will know what that code is doing. You don't need to know what the guy that was working there 6 months before you was thinking when he did it, because you don't need to understand some arbitrary solution, just the problem itself. So it's easier for new devs for this reason, it's easier for existing devs for the same reason, and because of natural language. You get free documentation because your scenarios, your gherkin scenarios, describe what is the business of the domain, what you're trying to achieve, and also because your code is kind of self-documenting, you can read your code and understand what was the intention behind it. You get tests for free, because when you write these examples and you write the specifications, in the end, when your code is written, these examples, the fact that your code makes these examples pass, proves that it actually works and that it does what is written on those examples. So these examples will act as tests as soon as your code is finished. It's easier for QA because they get the description of what the domain does and what is it they need to test without being primed to some user interface, without being told that they need to click this button or do that. They just have the intention, so they have to test it in the way that they come up with, and which might lead them to finding some edge cases. It makes it easier to respond to change because it reduces the gap between the stakeholders and the product itself. So because the language is closer, it's really easier to change. When one thing changes, the other thing can change as easily. And I'm speaking from experience because I've done this before. And one of the examples is an extension that was written more than a year ago. And some time ago, actually Daniel, standing there, it was called, he had never worked on this extension and he needed to extract this because there was an intention of implementing this extension for Magento 2 as well. And after a couple of days, the domain that was already separated but was on the same repository, on the same Git repository, was extracted to a different repository, had all the tests passing and was being composed into the Magento 1 extension and ready for us to start working and doing the Magento 2 extension when needed. So if we do these tests and they're not end-to-end, what about end-to-end tests? Now this is going to be technical as well. And in Behat 3 you have this thing called suites, which allow you to have, for the same set of steps, different implementations. So we will have our domain context that is implemented in this way that I was demonstrating, that will drive just this core domain. But you can have, for example, a web suite that will go through the browser and test the same thing and check that it actually works when integrated with the browser and with the database and everything. You might as well filter, for example, and say that your domain context doesn't run UI scenarios, or you might have a mobile suite with the context that always run just on a mobile tag, and you will have the same scenarios, just different implementations. You might have an integration that runs the exact same test as this one, but instead of using that fake payment gateway, uses the actual payment gateway and actually does the whole thing from end to end. So in sum, we get this bounded domain that causes our domain to be isolated and not be affected by external changes. We get decoupled parts of our application where our business logic is separated from all the boilerplate and from all the low-level technical classes and views and stuff like that. We get decoupling from frameworks, so we can change frameworks with some ease. We get a better understanding of business model because there's a need to have a conversation between the developers and stakeholders and understand what is trying to be achieved and what's the value that we're trying to deliver. There's a reduction of communication gaps because of the natural language, this ubiquitous language that everyone is speaking, and instead of developers speaking some weird thing that business doesn't really understand. Easier development because the code is more readable, it tries to mirror natural language, and it talks about the problem, which makes it really easy for developers. And all of these good practices, these patterns emerge from this kind of development. You get quicker CI builds, continuous integration, because your domain suite doesn't go through the browser, doesn't go to the database, doesn't go to the web server, so it runs really quickly, and you can have this building every time you make a pull request, and you can have, for example, every day or every hour or something, you can just run the whole end-to-end test suite, but while you're developing, you don't have this thing like hindering your progress. You just immediately get feedback because this runs in seconds. It's easier handover because you get this free documentation from the from all of these scenarios and from your code using natural language, and it's easy to get into the code base. It's maintainable because it only changes to reflect business changes, and that's it. Thank you all, and thank you, Invika, for hosting us. Any questions? And we're hiring, so if anyone wants, can just take one of these. So if you're interested in doing this kind of thing. There's a few links here related with what I just said, so if you got interested, just take a picture of this. Any questions? Not really. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Very good.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, Marco.
Thank you.
All right, I just wanted to say once again thank you to Invika for hosting us tonight. Thank you all for coming. Remember, Mage Stack Day is coming up soon, so take a look at that. Sign up on the sheet if it hasn't gone around. I see it; it's right there. If anyone still wants to go into the raffle, and that's it. Thanks again, and we'll be having the next one. Sam, when's that date?
I'm just checking.
He was just checking it now. We have a date for the next one, so we'll be putting up the invite very, very soon. And also, if anyone wants to do a talk for that one, please let us know. That's it. Thanks a lot. Good night.